Hello, this is Caroline Middlebrook here. This video is about a new microblogging platform called Plurk. This looks like it's trying to be a rival for Twitter, which I'm quite a fan of, as most of you probably know. This is quite different to Twitter in a lot of ways, and it's got a lot of similarities too. I'm at the main Plurk website here, and if I scroll with my mouse, the first thing you're going to notice is this thing called a timeline. In Twitter, I've actually got my Twitter thing down here. All the updates are simply in a list, which is nice and easy to see, but you've got no real idea of when things were sent, how long ago. With this, you've actually got a timeline here. You can see exactly what time things were sent, and you can see how relative they are. So if it was just a little while ago or a long while ago, and so on. I'm going to show some of the little extra features that Plurk has. For example, Dosh here is a big Twitter user, has obviously jumped on Plurk. If we have a look over here, you've got a little icon there which links straight into a YouTube video, which is being very slow to load. Here it is. It doesn't really matter what the video is, but the point is it's so easy to just embed. There we go, YouTube, and also pictures as well. There's some instructions here on how to do that. You can integrate directly with YouTube as well as lots of image services such as Flickr. Now if you notice when Dosh has put that in, it says shares here. This is another thing that's a little bit different. With Twitter, you just type in this box and that's it. We've got the idea of an emote here, so the standard one is. If I click this drop down, we've got all these various little things. It's just a nicety. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's just something extra that you can do. Another thing that's different about Plurk, or not different, but is a bit easier to use, is that it will show you what's new since you last had a look. So I can have a look and say, these are two new Plurks which have come along, and we've also got these responses. Now the responses is probably one of the biggest differences between Plurk and Twitter. With Twitter, coming back down to my application that I use here, you've got the opportunity to click this button and to reply, and a reply that comes to you will come into this tab, but you can't follow an actual conversation. Whereas if we have a look here, Tamar, she said she's awake, it's 3 AM, and if you look at this thing here, this says 10, this is the responses. You can click on that and see exactly who has responded and what they've said. So this is so much easier to actually follow a conversation, and I think this is probably one of the biggest implications for Plurk over Twitter. We've also got little icons here. There's it's just, again, it's little niceties. Now if I just scroll down here, we've got something called Karma. Mine is very low because I've hardly used the service. I'm not really knowing what to say because I know I don't have many people following me, which is something else I'll come back to in a moment. Karma is just a rating between 1 and 100 about how active you are. I'm sure it's one of those things that everyone's going to start trying to get loads of karma, but nobody really knows yet what it really means, if anything. Now another big advantage of Plurk over Twitter is the way you can organise your friends. Let's scroll back up, click on my friends. We have something here called cliques. This allows you to manage your friends into groups. Now this was always a big problem with Twitter, especially if you're using Twitter from a marketing point of view, which has always been my angle. So for example, you've got a web presence such as me, I have my internet marketing stuff, but then I've also got personal friends on Twitter, and those two groups of people I'm not necessarily going to want to send them the same tweets. It's the same problem with Facebook and many other social networks. You don't necessarily want to share the same information with your work colleagues as with your personal friends, your family, or whatever other social groups that you might move in. So being able to organise your friends into cliques in that way, and then what happens is down here when you send your Plurk, by default it's set to the whole world, but you can expand this out and type in the name of a clique here so that you can just restrict your Plurks to just a certain group of people, which is quite handy. Now, I say it's a problem, it's not really a problem yet, but at the moment Plurk is simply as it is. There's no API there, so no third parties can develop on top of it, whereas Twitter has really taken off in recent months because it released an open source API, and ever since they did that we have got a ton of third-party applications and tools and websites and all sorts of services that integrate very well with Twitter. However, it's not going to be long before Plurk has one, and I'm sure when they do, it's going to raise the game significantly. Twitter has had a lot of downtime recently, lots of technical problems, and they've been suffering as a result. Now, another problem with a new user, someone such as me, I've got something like 1,200 followers on Twitter. So if I go and chat and put something in here, if I ask a question, for instance, I'm fairly sure I'm going to get a pretty good response. But of course, when I came onto Plurk, when I first came on, I had the ability to import. I can't remember how I did that now, but I was able to import friends from Twitter, but that was only one way. That was only allowing me to follow them. So of course I don't have many people following me. So it's very much like when I first loaded up Twitter. You start talking to yourself and you realise that there's nobody listening because you don't have any followers. So that's the biggest problem with any one of these things. When you first start out, unless a whole bunch of your friends are using it as well, it's difficult to get started. And in the case of Plurk versus Twitter, if you want to use both, do you copy your Plurks to your tweets and so forth? Well, there is a solution at the moment. There's a little application here called Feed Tweeter, and this allows you to feed in information from these services, which includes Plurk, into Twitter. So that's one way in which you can do it. You can use Feed Tweeter, you use Plurk, so even if you don't have many followers on there, you can still start using the service and it'll automatically get sent to your Twitter account, so that will let you use both. Now, I actually haven't signed up for this yet. I'm not convinced about Plurk yet, but I just thought I would check it out. So that's my initial little overview. I think it shows a lot of promise, but I don't think it's going to take off in a big way until they release an API. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And that's all. Thank you.